Welcome everyone to our workshop, our luncheon lab for June on branding and SEO. I'm really grateful that you all can be here, and I'm joined by John Victoria of Polianna. I'm Reggie Holmes with Enthuse Creative, a strategic branding and design company based in the Tysons Corner area, which is where we're coming to you live from today. I have been working in Enthuse Creative for about 8 years, have many other years of branding and graphic design experience outside of that, but I love to help business owners become brand owners. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means. But basically, I love to work with the business owner to pull out the meaning and identity of their brand and really its value, and then create the assets and vehicles that help communicate that value to their target audience. So that's a little bit about what we will talk about today. And I'm grateful for you to be here. I'm going to turn it over to John to be able to introduce himself. For those of you that just joined, feel free to mute yourself. And also you can add your contact information to the chat. That way we can all get to know each other a little bit better. And we'll have a Q&A portion at the end of the presentation. So if you have questions as you go along, you can hold on to them or you can put them in the chat and we'll go back through them. So I'll turn it over to John to introduce himself.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Victoria. I'm the owner of Polianna, and we are a local SEO agency based in Arlington, Virginia. I've been in business about 6 years, and a lot of the reasons why businesses work with us is, number one, I'm having trouble getting leads to their website, complaining like, oh, we got this new website that's been built, but we're getting no business from it. Second reason is you might be angry or frustrated with the escalating ad costs. If you are on Facebook, if you're on Google, you'll know that the ad costs are escalating very rapidly, and people are looking for a way to cut down on those costs while at the same time not reducing the lead quality. And then number three, folks are just frustrated with not being found on Google search. And so those are the three problems that people usually come to us with. And today we'll be helping you to solve those problems and giving you frameworks as well as strategies to solve the visibility problem. So back to Reggie.
All right. And thank you, John. So one thing that I love to do when we do these workshops is highlight the takeaways. So what do I want you to get out of this hour that we're going to spend together? So a few of the takeaways, one is to understand the relationship between branding and SEO, and just to not give it all away, but they are very closely related. And so hopefully through our discussion today, we'll talk about how they're kind of intertwined and how you can think of your search engine optimization strategy as part of your branding strategy, and how you can think of branding as part of your SEO strategy. So we'll touch on those things, and then we also want to make it practical, right? We want to make it something that you can actually walk away with, things that you can do on the branding and on the SEO side to help your business grow and start to see the results that you want to achieve. So that's what we'll be talking about. Again, if you have questions about anything as we go along, feel free to put them in the chat or hold them until the end, and we will have some time dedicated for Q&A toward the end of the presentation. So we're going to approach this thinking about these three things: the relationships, the roles, and the results. So I am a big alliteration guy, as you can probably tell already, but it helps me to think about how all these things are intertwined and where we want to go as far as how best to sort of frame and approach these two subjects. So these are kind of the high level areas that we'll look at when it comes to branding and SEO. And so one thing that I wanted to share before we get too deep into that is this concept, and I apologize, I don't have a slide for it, but it's called the grand brand equation, and it's a simple equation. I'm not a math guy, but I can wrap my head around this. It's called visible times viable equals valuable. So I'll say that again: visible times viable equals valuable. And basically what that means, and it's sort of my overarching philosophy as it relates to branding, digital marketing, everything that you're doing to help people know about you and your business and to get them to work with you. So visible means obviously I'm seen, I'm known, I'm recognized. So everything that you're doing to gain that awareness. Viable means that people know that your company is capable and available to do the work that you say you do. And as you amplify through your website, through other digital channels, social media, traditional branding, as you amplify both of those things, as they multiply and work together, that ultimately is what is going to create value for your business. So keep that equation in your mind. That's something that I always think about. And one other point along that is anything multiplied by zero is still zero, right? So it's helpful to kind of think about them multiplying and working together. But if you have high visibility, for example, but you're not viable, so you're out there, people know about you, but you can't really do the work, the result net is still zero. And you might be a great solution that can do the work and has the solutions, but if nobody knows about you, the result is still zero. So the equation works that way. You've got to have both working in tandem to really increase the value that the customer sees in your business and the value that you're able to provide for your customers. So with the equation in mind and these relationships, roles, and results in mind, as far as our framework for approaching this discussion, we're going to jump right in. So branding and SEO are strongly connected. As we think about relationship, they're strongly connected. And it helps me to always think about what is brand or what is branding. And so my working definition, trying to make it simple, there are a lot of definitions and frameworks out there for what a brand is and what branding is. I like to think of it as an entity's communicated and perceived identity. So that is not only what the entity says about what it is, but also what the market, what the audience perceives and understands. So it's those things working in concert as people understand and perceive and appreciate what your entity is. And it can be a person, an individual. We have personal brands, and then we obviously have professional and corporate brands. So it can be a business or an organization. In the world that we live in today, pretty much anything can be a brand, but there's two sides of it. It's not just what you say you are, it's what people believe and feel and understand. So branding as a verb, if you will, is the collective effort to create or shape that identity. So that work can be at the beginning of your entity, or you can do work in the middle of it to recreate and reshape that identity. And from my perspective, branding serves three purposes: to identify, to connect, and to differentiate. So it's to have people know you, to be able to connect with you emotionally and in terms of their feelings and their awareness and consciousness of who you are and what you're all about, and then also to differentiate. So brands exist to set one thing apart from another. So as you do those three things and accomplish those three purposes, that's where brand building really happens. And we're going to delineate this discussion of branding from marketing in the sense that marketing seeks to build on brand and to drive customer acquisition or action. So we're not thinking about the tactics and tools that we might use to get people to buy or to make that decision to go further in the process. These are the things that help them get to a place where you're in a position to do marketing that gets them to make the sale, to make the purchase. And a great quote that John provided as we were putting this together is from Seth Godin, world-renowned marketer. He says, "A brand is a set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships that, taken together, account for a consumer's decision to choose one product or service over another." And so in that idea of identify, connect, and differentiate, we kind of see all of those in that definition from Seth Godin. So with that, I'll turn it over to John as he digs more into SEO and helps us get a great foundation of what it is.
Thank you, Reggie. When it comes to SEO, I talk to a lot of our customers, and a lot of them think of it as this technical black magic. It's a black box. You're doing stuff with the website and somehow you're found on Google. But I want to break it down in simple terms, like what really is SEO all about? And to connect what SEO is to branding, I found a great quote by Ashley Friedlein on what branding is, and then I'm going to rephrase it for SEO so you can see the connection. So the quote is, brand is the sum total of how someone perceives a particular organization. Branding is about shaping that perception. Rephrase for SEO, all SEO is that SEO is the sum total of how a search engine perceives a particular website. SEO is about shaping that perception. So really the main difference between the first definition and the second is who is doing the perceiving of the value. With branding, it is we as people that are perceiving the brand. But in the terms of SEO, it is the search engine. That could be Google, Bing, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo. How are they perceiving a particular website and how are they valuing that on the search engine? Some other distinctions that I want to make is SEO is different than paid search. So I speak with folks and they say, oh, you do AdWords, right? Because you do SEO. Actually, SEO is non-sponsored results. So it is not pay to play. Google AdWords, Google sponsored results, Google LSA, which is local service ads. These are all part of the Google ecosystem, but they're separate from what SEO is. But what SEO is, it's, again, the non-sponsored search results. If you've ever typed in a question, you see the people also ask section on Google. That's part of SEO. And also, if you're a local business, you might be familiar with Google My Business, or they now know it as Google Business Profiles. And so this is just a platform where you can sign up your business. And if someone is searching in your local area, let's say here in Tyson's Corner, say you're a dentist, a lawyer, a contractor, someone is able to find you in the map section, call you, navigate to your location. And this is something that's free to all businesses. The other thing with SEO that I want to touch on, which is related to branding, is that the currency of SEO is trust. But what Google trusts is different than what humans trust, because again, Google, the search engine, it's a program. It has artificial intelligence, but it's not sentient. It's perceiving things in a different way, and it's trying to model what do people value. So what is SEO impacted by? There's a few things. It's going to be your website and what you say about yourself, the content that you create. It's also what Google finds out about your brand online. What are other people saying about you? Are you listed on Yelp, on Better Business Bureau? It could be on your local chamber website. It's also your reviews. What are people saying about you? Is it positive? Is it negative? And how are people engaging with your content? Are they clicking on your website? Are they staying on your website? Are they going to different pages? And being the big brother that Google is, they can see all those things, and they use that to judge how effective your website is at answering problems. Because all Google is, it's an answer providing mechanism. People have questions, they want to find something, they want to figure out where this actor is 5 years later from the TV show. Whatever question you got, Google is there to answer it. And so the question becomes, with SEO, how do you convey to Google and the way that it understands the value that your business is providing for the problems that you're solving? And so that's it on SEO. We'll talk more about it, but back to Reggie.
Great. Thank you, John. And I love that phrase that he used, the currency of SEO is trust. And with respect to branding, it's much the same. And if you think about, at its most basic level, Google or any other search engine is there to answer questions, to provide answers to questions. And if you think about your business, whatever it is, whether you are a brand strategist, whether you are a health and nutrition coach, whether you are in public relations or law, whatever it is that you do, you are there to solve problems. And so Google also, as it relates to businesses, is there to provide solutions to problems that people have. And the most basic way that we sort of state problems is by asking questions. So it's helpful as you start to think about what is the content that's on my website? How is my website positioned as a solution provider to these problems that I know that my customers have? So great stuff there. So a little bit more about the relationship. Brand affects and impacts awareness. Awareness is what drives search. Search impacts, obviously, website traffic. The more people that see my search engine results and go to my page, these are people that are potentially looking for the solutions that I provide. That traffic is going to positively impact conversions and ultimately revenue. So the more potential people with problems that I can be a viable and visible solution for, the more opportunities I'm going to have to earn revenue, to turn those people with a problem into people that I serve with my solution. So it all is designed to work together. According to a 2019 study by Bright Edge Research, 53.3% of all website traffic comes from search engines like Google, and SEO drives 1,000% more traffic than organic social media. So that's just as a way of showing comparison. There's nothing like having a great digital brand presence in the form of a website that provides great answers to common problems that your customers having. People are looking, and that is going to drive traffic to you. And the great thing about SEO is that it increases that free traffic. As John mentioned, it's not paid, and it can be there, working behind the scenes for a really long time in a great way to help drive your business. So did you want to say something about the relationship as well? One other thing?
For sure. Yeah. The great thing about SEO is that it also helps you tap into markets that might not already know about your brand. Because if you have great search rankings for different things that people might be searching about for problems regarding your business, they can find out about you. So brand can drive awareness, but also SEO can drive awareness that you do exist. And that's the amazing thing. And so without that awareness, if you take it back to the equation we talked about in the beginning, the visibility and the viability, both SEO and branding build into the visibility and also into the viability. So that's what makes this so valuable. So yeah, that's it. I'll pass it back to Reggie.
Great. And if you think about people coming to your website, think about a competitive search engine situation. There's you and a couple of other competitors. If we think about what brands do, which is identify, connect, and differentiate, your website is really the place where you can do those things. And now you're in a situation where people are looking at 2 or 3 different options, and you've done SEO well, and you are one of those 3 options that come up on their search engine results. That's where you have to capitalize from a brand perspective on making sure that people are clear about who you are, where you're located, what are your services, how can you actually help them, connecting with your message, that it resonates, that you speak to those problems that they have as your potential customer, and are clear about your solutions, and then differentiate, because you are in a competitive situation where people are now comparing you against the competition. And so they're looking for the things that speak to them, that are going to help in a positive way to set you apart from your competitors. So that's where you've done SEO well. Now your branding has to shine through on your website. So you're able to solidify and increase and enhance that relationship with that person that comes to your website. Sometimes in a sales process, people are doing this, comparing and contrasting between people's websites multiple times. I've had that happen as people are looking for a design firm or looking for someone to build them a new website. They go to my site and maybe competitor sites a couple of different times and compare notes. And so every time someone comes to your website, it's an opportunity for you to identify, to connect, and differentiate. And so that really helps change the idea of even what your website is there for. It's not just to have, some, information about your business, but it's really an opportunity for your brand to stand out, especially as you think about, your target customers coming to your site. So one analogy that I like to think of to kind of help us crystallize this a little bit is golf. I'm not a big golf player, but you know, when you play golf, you have your drive, right? Your driver off the tee, you hit the ball far. You know, there's a lot of effort to do that. And then you land on the green, right? And you put it in. So that's sort of where you do marketing, right? Marketing is you got them on the green, you sort of teed everything up, and now you got to cash it in, right? You got to close this sale. But the approach, the drive and the approach, you know, which is sort of the long game, right? That requires some strategy. Where am I going to hit this ball so that I'm in great position to have an easy putt, you know, to get the lowest score possible? So everybody, you know, we like marketing because it's usually quick and we can see the results, but branding is more of that long game. It's more of that strategic drive off the tee and then strategic approach shots to get me in great position to be able to let marketing do what it does, which is drive that customer action. So it's more driving than putting. And that's, you know, kind of what helps me think about branding. And John's going to talk a little bit about how, you know, SEO works as, you know, compared with ads and what some of the most successful companies are doing.
Yeah, so there's a dollar amount when it comes to having really good SEO and branding. So earlier to this presentation, I pulled up Statista and I pulled up the 5 biggest companies in the US just to look at their brand value. So those 5 companies are Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Walmart. So I pulled up their brand value, but I also pulled up the value of their SEO. So if they were to get all this free traffic, what is the value of that traffic coming into their website? And so let me share with you a few of those numbers. So for Apple, their brand value is $355 million. So that's great from the brand side, but also from the SEO side, they have $201 million worth of traffic value, and they rank for over 71 million keywords. Amazon, $350 million brand value and 398 million traffic value with 168 million keywords. For Google, $263 million in terms of brand value, and this is of 2022. Their traffic value is 91 million, and they rank for over 16.6 million keywords. Microsoft, 184 million in brand value, 184 million in traffic value. Walmart has 111 million in brand value and 102 million in traffic value. If you look at those numbers, they're quite big, but also you'll realize that the most successful brands and the highest brand value, they're also doing incredibly well when it comes to SEO. And I just wanted to share those things with you because there is a correlation between branding and SEO. And really, the main currency is trust, right? In life and the brand, these are some of the most well-known brands that are out there. But on search engines as well, they've correlated it where because they are so trusted in person, they're also so trusted on search engines, and they can be found for millions upon millions of searches. And so both of them are very related to each other, and it's the long game. You know, these brands weren't built overnight. Their SEO wasn't built overnight, but just like Reggie said with the golf swing, you get that right, you get it on the green. You know, now it's just the marketing tactics that you need to do to hit it into the hole. So yeah, that's it for me. Back to Reggie.
Yeah. Thanks, John. So that's sort of the relationship between branding and SEO. They're very much connected. They kind of work. You know, we have this chicken and egg kind of analogy. You know, which came first. We're not really sure, but they're both really important, right? Instead of thinking of it as a, you know, chicken then egg or egg then chicken situation, like they're both essential and they both have to be in the mix to spur that value, sort of like the brands that John was just talking about. So both are very important. They're interconnected, intertwined, and they both, when working well, play a great role in getting people to not only know about you, but also to buy from you and to make it easy to find you online. All right, so going on next, we want to look at the role So branding spurs awareness and visibility. SEO provides authority and viability, and they both provide your audience with value, right? So there's 3 A's in there: awareness, authority, and then audience. You've got to always keep the audience in mind. This chart is from Google, and Google put this together to sort of summarize what people are looking for when they enter something into their search engine. So they really kind of identified 4 sort of experiences that people have, and they broke them down into moments. So I want to know, I'm looking for information, not necessarily trying to buy. I want to go, they're looking for a place. I want to do, they're looking for an experience or help with a task. And then I want to buy, they're ready to make a purchase. So these are just things that I would like for you to keep in mind as you think about the traffic that comes to your website, or when someone, is doing a search. What are the things that they're looking for? What is their frame of mind? What is the goal that they want to accomplish when they think about them going to your website? So we talked about how search results are really answers to questions that people have asked and are asking, and even that section where it says I think related questions or similar things that other people have asked. It's the search engine itself is showing you sort of how it operates in the form of questions and answers. So the more you can create your content to be great answers to these questions that your customers have, that's going to help position you well for search and from an SEO standpoint. So just speaking a little bit about awareness, obviously that relates to the visibility part of the equation. People see or have seen you and know you. And the more of your brand they see, the more they understand and appreciate. Authority, that relates to the viability. You can't consistently show up and stand out as a proven solutions provider for the problems that your customers are having. So if trust is the currency, that is indicating that your currency is flowing well, that you have a lot of it, right? When you are one of these results that it demonstrates consistently that you have the answers that people are looking for, that's going to push you up higher. And then audience that's the one that you're creating value for. You're creating value through branding and SEO for yourself by investing in these things, but ultimately you're creating and showcasing value that you have for your customer. And again, you're known and you're trusted, and that's the place that we all want our brands to be. And John's going to talk a little bit about how we should think about this as business owners who want to be brand owners and who want to excel at both branding and SEO.
Yeah, one quick thing I want to share is that with branding and SEO, it is pull marketing versus push marketing. An example of push marketing might be telemarketing, right? You're going about your day. You're trying to get work done. Someone calls you up from an unknown number, and then you open it up. You don't know who this is, and you're getting a sales pitch. It can work definitely in large volumes of calls, but many times the responses you're going to get are not going to be very positive. You contrast that with branding and SEO. It's a longer thing, but it's pull marketing because people have these questions. They have a need that they're searching for an answer for. And so they are going to a search engine. They're looking for someone that they can trust that can solve their problem. One great metaphor that I always use to make it really simple, it's a metaphor of dating, right? So with dating, there's the example of, let's imagine that there's a guy and he's at a bar and he's walking up to different people who might be interested in. Those two separate parties are having their own nights. And it can feel uncomfortable if that person wasn't expecting it. It can work, there can be a connection made, but it's a lot more difficult. Contrast that with, let's take the high school example where there's a jock and he is doing really well in sports, he's doing really well in school, and all of the, the other people that might be interested in, he doesn't necessarily have to say anything. It's just he's being by nature who he is, and he is pulling those people to him. So, a funny example, but really this is what it's all about. It's how do you shift things in such a way where there's not as much friction so that people are coming to you, and there's so many benefits that will come from it. And we'll talk about that in the next section. So back to Reggie.
All right. Thanks, John. So we'll continue. And so we talked about the relationship. We talked about the role. That's what we just talked about. Now we'll talk about the results. So branding and SEO help you find and connect with the right person at the right time. If only all business, all transactions and relationships were that simple. Branding and SEO working in tandem, as we've discussed, is what allows that to happen more and more. So you don't get people who are hitting you up, but they're looking for a solution that you don't provide, or they are not in a position to actually purchase, or, that sort of thing. You get people who are ready for what you're offering, who are well-researched and have done their own, education prior to that, or they've been referred to your digital brand presence, your website, and have found the solution to their problem or found the right answer to their question. And if we think about everything that we've talked about, that's really the goal of what you're accomplishing. And as you think about content that you may want to add to your website, or areas where you want to enhance the messaging or the copy, that's what you want to keep in mind. Is this going to help me to connect with providing the solution to a question or a problem that my ideal customer has? Is my website a place that they can consistently go to get the solution to their problem? At the end of the day, that's what people want. And consumers nowadays are much more likely to have done their own research, to have done that looking around on multiple competitor websites, as I mentioned before. That's very much how, growing up in the internet search engine age, we have trained ourselves. Before we go and purchase, we look around, we shop around, we ask questions, and Google, other search engines they're the greatest tool that we have in doing that. But with that knowledge that consumers pursue solutions in this way, what does that mean that we as business owners, as brand owners, as the people that create and run these websites, what is the burden now on us, knowing that people are this way when they start to look for solutions? So John will tackle that as we talk about results.
So when it comes to branding, SEO, and results, the main way that we can connect this has to do with the content of your website. And you'll probably know, if you've been on a number of sales calls, that there are customer concerns that will consistently come up. And if you can have content that helps resolve a lot of those issues beforehand, and it's something that actually helps your customers, it's going to rank well. But also when they go to that content, it'll resolve it when they're reading through things. And so I came up with a list of common pieces of content or common objections that you could create content around that could then rank on a search engine. So I bucket them into 3 categories. The first is circumstances, the second is others, and then the third is self. So with concerns, for circumstances, it's usually around time. Is it the right time to do something like this? It's going to take too long to implement. Money, it could be, it's too much. Maybe I could get a better deal somewhere else. And then fit, I don't know if I resonate with this business. I don't know if they have my best interests in mind, or maybe they're not local to me, so I don't necessarily want to work with them. If you could write content around those 3 issues, that would be a great sales tool. But also, people are searching things like that up online all the time. And what if you were found anytime someone asks one of those questions? Another concern has to do with others and what they might say. Maybe, what will my spouse say, my partner, kids, or maybe my employees if I implement a solution that you might provide? And so it's, depending on your business, this might not be relevant, but what if you wrote content that ranked well, that could also help educate your potential customers if they found it? And then third, it's a lot of it is your inner world. Right? I like thinking of business A lot of our growth in business has to do with the amount of inner work that we can do on ourselves. And so when it comes to your product or service, potentially your customer might be avoiding the decision. There might be limiting beliefs that they might have. They might be thinking that, oh, this is the way it was in the past, and it's always going to be this way for the present and into the future. What if you created content that ranked well, that not only positioned yourself because you were found on a search engine, but also when they read through it, it showed that you understood your customer and they were getting converted as they were moving through that piece of content. And so that's the beauty of SEO. You can get found, but also, you are optimizing things. But at the end of the day, it is a powerful tool to get you closer to the sale and to position yourself in the most effective way. And aside from that, the other way to think about how you can get better results with your SEO and how to write your content is just to think about the marketing funnel. There's 3 stages in a marketing funnel. There's the top of the funnel, there's the middle of the funnel, and then there's the bottom of the funnel. And all that is that, the top of the funnel, this is awareness, which we talked about earlier, people finding out that you exist. The second is consideration, thinking about you, your price, and you versus other folks. And then conversion, which is them actually making the sale. And so with the customer concerns and also considering the marketing funnel, you can use these 2 places as ways to ideate what sorts of content can I create for my SEO, and that also connects to your branding so that those things are intertwined. And so with that, and that should be it. And I'm going to pass it back to Reggie.
All right, so we're moving forward here, close to the end. I just want to show you guys, this is my Google business profile. I'm logged in here, but you can see this area. One thing that we can say about it is highly visible. And so having a well taken care of Google business profile, again, this is a free tool that people can take advantage of so that they're more visible and viable. I have 15 reviews. I'm always trying to get more, right? When you have a business that is close, seems to be reputable, they're real people that have vouched for my products and services, that's a good thing. And so if you don't have one, definitely invest in one. And as we transition to a discussion about tips and tactics and things that we can actually do, I'm going to turn it over to John, who's going to talk about several specific actionable things that you can do to help both your branding and SEO as we sort of wind down here.
Awesome. Thanks, Reggie. So yeah, first one has to do with brand consistency, and Reggie hit it already, which was if you're not on Google My Business right now and you serve a local radius, like definitely get on it. Looking across all of the accounts that we serve, the website, it is powerful, but a majority of the phone calls is now coming from Google My Business. And so don't sleep on it, optimize it, fill out all the information. And if you don't have one, sign up for a free account. Second thing to do that will help your SEO is that you'll want to have you'll want to have accounts on all of the different social media profiles that are out there. And so if you have a Facebook for your business, a Twitter for your Facebook, a YouTube and LinkedIn, you don't necessarily have to be active, but to have these profiles existing, Google uses these profiles as a way to verify that you are actually legit. And so if you want better results in the search results, you'll want to have those profiles existing. And if possible, you don't always have to be active, but it does help your rankings if you are more active. Second thing is use the right keywords. So, when it comes to searching, there are keywords that people use to find your business. And so there's a few tools that are out there that you can use to find keywords and questions. The first tool that I recommend is one called Answer the Public. Answer the Public, it's just a website, and all you have to do is type in any topic, and what it'll do is that it will generate a huge list of hundreds of questions that people are asking about a topic. So you could put something, for example, as trivial as like chocolate, and if you put chocolate in, it'll ask all the questions like, oh, what is chocolate? What are the best types of chocolate? What is the nutritional value of chocolate? It builds an entire list of all those questions, and that can be used for your SEO. And then the second free tool that you could use is the people also ask function on Google. And we mentioned it earlier. Just type in a question you have, and then when it pops up, what you do is you click on the arrow to show the question. And what Google will do is after showing the first 5 questions, it'll show an additional 5 questions beneath it. And you can continue to click on it and find a whole list of questions that other people are asking around that topic. The third thing that I'd recommend in terms of getting better results for SEO has to do with backlinks. And all backlinks is that there's another website that exists somewhere on the web and they're linking back to you. And Google sees that as a vote of confidence. The more votes of confidence that you have, the higher your rankings will go. So the first tip around backlinks that I'd say is you're going to type in on Google the word citations, CITATIONS. And all this is that this is a place to list your business. And then you add your industry. So for example, let's say that we're talking about the digital marketing industry. So I might type in digital marketing citations, or if I'm in the plumbing industry, I type in plumbing citations. And what'll come up is a number of websites that have listed out, 50, 100, 150 websites that you could get yourself listed. And if you got those, you would get backlinks and improve your rankings. And so easy way to get backlinks to your website. The fourth thing is, actually, we talked about this already. This is about cornerstone and pillar content on the website. Just again, accumulate those questions that you might get from your customers. And also you can just ask new customers that you might speak to. What are some of the problems that you're facing when making a decision to work with me? Those are types of things that you can create as content on your website, and that will help your SEO. Number 5 has to do with testimonials and social proof. So getting other people to talk about you, whether that's reviews on your website, reviews on Facebook, that is third-party validation that you are legit. And that is something that will help your rankings. But the second thing that I notice a lot of business owners miss is that they will get a review, but they do not reply to the review. And so it's actually a ranking signal to reply to reviews, and that'll improve yourself positively, regardless of what the ranking is. Like, let's say you got a 2 stars, or it could be a 3 stars. Replying to that is key to your rankings, but also it's key to your brand to show that you're a responsive business and that you are addressing any concerns and looking to make things right with any of your customers that might be frustrated. Number 6, and I actually will want to get Reggie's feedback on this later on, is that if you want to improve your SEO as it relates to branding, if you have a keyword in your URL of your website, that is going to be so much more helpful to your SEO than any other factor. I estimate that it improves, or it makes it easier to rank by about 35 to 45% by having a keyword in your domain. So to give a quick example, let's say I run a plumbing company and my name is John. And so let's say the first example is I just name my URL John's Company. And, I could do all the SEO for that. I could get it ranked. But if you compare that to a website that I named John's Plumbing Company, it is going to be a lot easier for me to rank for plumbing keywords just by having that keyword in the URL. And so, I don't know the implications from a branding standpoint on that one. We'll have to ask Reggie about that. But from an SEO standpoint, it is really, really helpful. And then the last tip that I would say to get better results is to make sure you're tracking everything that's going on with your website. And there's 2 things that I recommend for every local business. The first is to install Google Analytics. This is a free tool. You just install this code on your website, and it tells you everything about the people that come there. It tells you where they visited from, how long they stayed there, what pages that they visited. It's kind of creepy, actually, how much you can figure out. But this is the data that you can use to figure out whether or not people are actually engaging with your content and like it. So I'd definitely recommend installing Google Analytics. And then the second thing I'd recommend is implementing call tracking. Call tracking, all this is that you purchase a phone number from a provider and you set it up on your website so that you can track the people that are calling that number. So the way that most people have it is they have one business number on their website, on their business cards, on their SEO, on their ads. And the difficult thing is that you can't tell where those customers are coming from. And so to improve your results, what you can do is create numbers for each of those locations. So one for your SEO, one for your Google My Business, or one for your Yelp, or one for your business cards. And now you can properly attribute where folks are coming from to really see, are my SEO effects, or is my SEO implementation actually working in the way that I'd like? So that's the quick shimmy. I have a lot more. We can get a lot more technical, but high level implementation, the easy implementation ones you can do today. These are 7 that you could do today and you'd see better results in your SEO. So back to Reggie for the wrap up.
Great. Thank you so much, John. One other thing is that I found personally very helpful is to try to align with groups like chambers of commerce, government aligned entities, such as your, local municipality or what have you. They are very much trusted and credible. And so if you can show up on, the chamber directory, show up on your local government website, that's going to be very helpful for you, particularly in a local search situation. So thanks so much for those practical tips. Just to recap, a small investment in branding and SEO can pay big dividends. Branding and SEO are obviously very closely connected. And if you walk away with one thing, I'd love for you to think about how you can do both to help people not only see you and know you, but also come to trust you as a qualified provider of solutions to their problems. And so, as John mentioned earlier, trust is the currency of SEO. I would say that it's the currency of branding as well. And in all of these efforts, you want people to, again, not only just know who you are, but not only notice who you are, but to know who you are and to trust you, that you have the right solutions to their problems. So thank you guys for your attention. We will leave our contact info up here. Please reach out to either one of us if you have a branding question or if you have an SEO question. Thank you to John for being here. I love bringing on other subject matter experts, and he's definitely an expert in SEO. Feel free to reach out to him if you have any questions. At this time, we'll take some Q&A. If there are any questions, feel free to unmute, or you can drop it in the chat. But hopefully this was helpful for everybody, and thank you for participating.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Melissa. I had got, excuse me, I'm fairly new, and I had reviews on my on Google website, Google Business, excuse me. And I had one review recently where she gave me her comment was, that I helped her and everything. And, it was nothing bad, but then she gave me a 3. So it kind of didn't go with what she said versus what she gave me. So how do people review that as far as, okay, she gave me a 3, but her comment was, something different?
Okay, I'll let you tackle that.
Yeah, so I'd share that a lot of folks who are leaving reviews, they don't realize the impact that their reviews have on a business with their rankings and everything. So what it sounds like is that, the person might have just didn't know how serious it was to put a 3. And, it's because it sounded like the comment was actually really positive. So, what I've seen a lot of folks and businesses do is to actually reach out to the person that left that review or the number of stars, and just to ask, is there anything that I could do or anything that we could have done to have made you rate us a 5 stars instead of 3? I think a conversation with them could lead them to change it, because folks can change their reviews. So if they want to edit it or add an update in the future, they can do that. So possibly they just, also their finger could have slipped. There could have been a lot of things that might have been the reason. So I would just recommend just reaching out to that person, especially if you have their contact, just to ask, hey, I noticed, you gave us a glowing review, but you gave us 3 stars. Like what can we do to make it a 5? And maybe they might say, oh, I didn't mean to make it 3 stars. I meant to make it 5. Let me change that for you. So that would be my recommendation, just to reach out to them, just to see what's going on.
Thank you for that, because I wasn't sure if I could reach out. I thought about it, but I didn't want to come off as pushy. So thank you. I'll do that. Reach out to her. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing is also sometimes you want to help people with the review. So maybe you could say, hey, here are things that people have shared before, kind of give them some prompts or some things to think about. And then, yeah, just let them know how valuable that is to you as a small business owner. So great suggestions there. Anyone else have any questions? Mhm. Well, I have a question for John in that case. So I know that a lot of people, they start out maybe with just social media, right? That they have a certain amount of marketing dollars kind of allocated, and they're like, okay, well, SEO, I don't really, that could be maybe more expensive. I've got all these social media things here that are free. And so they just kind of focus their attention there. Talk a little bit briefly about the difference between, what social media does for you and then what SEO can do for you, and why you can't just rely on one.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Reggie. So yeah, I think it all depends on where someone is at with their business and also what capital they have available. For a business that's starting out, I usually recommend that they focus on the free channels and also to do a lot of things themselves, because capital preservation, especially in those early stages, is so key. So using social media marketing, connecting to friends and family, asking them to share thoughts about your business, I think that's a perfect channel and a perfect time, depending on your stage in business. I also think in the beginning, you probably should not hire an SEO company to do it, because it is an investment to do so. So I would recommend just doing a lot of it yourself in the beginning. You can follow a lot of the tips that I shared today, which is, coming up with a list of questions of content that you can create and share on your website. I'd recommend you just do that on yourself or at a lower budget, because I don't think that's the right time to begin doing SEO. For me, I think that it's usually much later in the business when there is a proven revenue model. They're at least around $500 to $1 million in annual revenue. That's usually when it's a better time. The difference between the two, though, is that with social media, people's attention and focus is not where you need it to be at it's not where it needs to be at in comparison to a search engine. On social media, let's say someone's on Facebook or on Instagram, they're scrolling mindlessly potentially, and they're looking for funny videos, their pictures of their family and friends, they're looking at cat videos, cooking videos, and people aren't focused on business. But sometimes you'll catch people at the right time, and maybe they weren't thinking about it, but you popped up and like, oh, I probably should work on that. Compare that with a search engine. People already they already know they have a problem, they have a need, and they're looking for a solution. And because again, a search engine is there to answer questions, and a lot of those questions might have to do with things that a business could provide. So on social media, whether that's organic or paid, you're just getting a different type of a person, like someone's in a different headspace. And you'll typically find that there's a lower lead quality, and you have to spend more to get a qualified lead on social media versus on SEO, which is, people already have that problem, and they are aware of it, and they're looking for a solution. But it is going to be more long-term to do that, and it's going to be more costly. So that's the difference between the two. It depends on where you're at in your business, and also the capital required as well.
Great. Yeah, and if you think about golf, going back to that analogy, there's a difference between just playing golf with friends and then competing on a PGA tour. Like they have coaches, they invest in the best equipment, and they play a lot of golf outside of just, when the tournament actually happens. And so SEO makes sense when you're in that sort of competitive marketplace, and you have, real competitors that you are trying to stand out in front of with your products and services. So as a business just getting started, it just doesn't make sense to invest at that level. If I'm just going to play golf with friends, I don't need to have all these coaches and, best equipment. Like, it's really not on that level. So that's kind of one way to think about, when what you should do at what point that makes sense for your business. So we're right up against the hour. I want to thank everyone for participating. We will make this available on YouTube, and we will be able to provide you with some notes. But I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll also send out a survey, just getting some feedback as well. But thank you everyone for your time, and have a great weekend.
All right, take care, everyone.
See you guys. Just save the chat. Stop recording.